Market to Market is everywhere you are. Subscribe to Market on YouTube, find us on the PBS video app to stream on demand, and add our 3 podcasts on your favorite podcasting app.
Hey everybody, I'm Paul Yeager. This is the MTOM Show podcast, a production of Iowa PBS and the Market to Market TV show. And speaking of that show, that sign, that's our thank you gift. If you continue or offer up your support to us, click on markettomarket.org/donate, and you can join our team and help tell the stories of agriculture, which is what our guest today does and really likes to do. Apri Hemmes is a producer in Franklin County, Iowa, which is the Hampton area, if you're familiar with the state. She is someone who has plenty of visitors come by, including one national radio host, and she absolutely loves talking to this person and telling the story about agriculture. She just got a call recently about the high commodity prices and what that means. We get into the national perspective, but also the local one as well. If you've got a farm neighbor, friend, or someone who might not know anything about what you do, or you're curious about agriculture and you listen to this one, share this with somebody else who might learn a little bit more about what goes on in all of that land around them. That's what Apri Hemmes is going to talk to us today about. She's also going to discuss how many people she can fit into a cab on that famous buddy seat of hers in the combine. So enjoy. If you have an idea for us on a topic or a guest, market to market at Iowa PBS, or email me at paul.yeager@iowapbs.org. I love receiving your feedback. Hello to Mark, Jeff, as well as Russell and April. Enjoy this episode with Apri Hemmes on this installment of the MTOM Show podcast. Do you have a book about who is ridden in the buddy seat of your combine?
Oh, that's a good idea. Here's what I thought about doing this year, but then COVID hit, was combine karaoke. I really think we should do that. So no, because I've had people from Uganda, Australia, the head of all agriculture imports from China. And he spoke very little English, and he was doing corn, even though he's a soybean guy. And he was combining corn because, let's face it, that's the easiest job on the farm. And all he kept saying was, most satisfying, most satisfying. And I said, yeah, but when you do it for 12 hours a day, it gets a little boring. No, he said, outcome worked for you. So, so it's great to show people, around the world what we do, how we do it on the farm, and the technology we have available.
Well, the buddy seat hasn't been around for that long. What did you do before the seat was there? How did you wedge people in?
I have actually had 5 people in my cab at one time. I wouldn't suggest it, but they were filming for something, and we all packed in. But if they came, you had to stand, or I had to stand, and they did it. But I've had a buddy seat for quite a while. So it's been, it's really, truly a joy to show people the farm and just talk about farming and what we do.
Where'd you get the idea to do that? To have all these people be guests?
People just call and say, hey, are you out in the field? Or I'm on the United Soybean Board. So they have people, they take, harvest tours and things like that. Can we stop by? Sure. So that's where a lot of it comes from. And that's what we did. The Australia guy was coming for the World Food Prize. His wife was speaking at it, and I was an exchange student there, so they knew people and came to my farm. And he's used to doing wheat in huge flat, fields, and I put him on my hilly field. And he goes, "What are these pointy things?" I go, "Just stick them in between the row." So he loved it. He just, he had the same combine, only he did wheat all the time. So, it's just fun seeing agriculture, around the world and sharing it.
Is that something that your father or the previous generations had done and be ambassadors?
Nope, not at all. No, it was, you put your head down, you work. My dad would always say, "Get off the phone." I go, with that generation, my grandpa lived to be 101. Combined corn at 100, planted beans at 100. So I couldn't have asked for a better, but he farmed through the Depression. So it was the harder you work, the better farmer you were. Well, when I came back 36 years ago, I said, it's not the harder you work, it's the better you market your crop. That's why I listen to Market to Market, and how you manage everything. So I brought that sense to it. So that was the fun part. And quite frankly, being a woman in agriculture sets me apart just a bit from every other farmer. So that's been fun to share, show that, yes, I do everything. My husband works off farm, doesn't drive. He rode in my combine once to say, oh, so this is what $200,000 buys you, and then got out. So, but hey, he pays my insurance.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
So you're third generation, fourth? What number are you?
Fourth generation.
What's the
our
the
farm
backwards?
is 120 years this year being owned by our family. So.
And so was that a homestead? That was after homesteading.
We're the second owner of it. Yeah.
And was farming always something you thought you'd do? Yep,
always. And I love the livestock part of it. So that used to be my cows. Yeah. So I have a degree from Iowa State in animal science. There was only 5% girls back in the day in 80. Say I graduated in 82. So I said to my graduating professor, now graduating in 82 in an agriculture degree was not fun, let me tell you. And you can't explain the farm crisis to people now very easily unless you've been through it. And he goes, what do you want to do, April? My senior advisor. I said, I want to go home to farm. And he looked at me. He said, why do you want to waste yourself like that? And people gasp when I say that now, but I said that was real back then. There was no future for a lot of, young people on the farm. So I did research at Iowa State. I worked at a bank. I had a minor in finance and worked in Washington, swine testing station, and then worked in Washington, D.C. And then, because I wanted to get into international agriculture, and then I went, oh no, wearing nice clothes for 12 hours a day is not for me. So back to the farm I came, and I've been here ever since.
Okay. Let's go back to that 5% number at Iowa State for women. I mean, do you look around, do you connect with that 5% and find out what happened to them? And did they follow the same path and have the same determination that you did?
Many of them did. What I have found that's so interesting is the women in a lot of the ag jobs now, whether it's Corteva or Bayer or, Farm Bureau, places like that, graduated with a home ec degree or a horticulture degree. They didn't get into ag, but that's what they always wanted to do. So they kind of found their way into it, rather than just going straight into ag. So women of my age. But that's what's so exciting now is seeing all these, women in there. Now, I warn them, I go, you're going to run into people who aren't going to accept you, and they don't see it at all, the young kids now. And then they come back to me and they go, oh yeah, now we know what you're talking about, but what a great future they have ahead of them. Agriculture it's just so exciting. I always tell the story of my grandpa who started farming with 3 horses and lived long enough to see auto steer come in. That's one lifetime. So think of what's going to happen in their lifetime,
I'm thinking about farming right now and it's done. It could be that mind control.
Yep.
Well, okay. So you're graduating high school did you graduate from Hampton?
Yep. Graduate from Hampton.
So in the mid 70s, late 70s, again, telling people around you, yeah, I'm going to Iowa State. I'm going to farm. They probably had to look at you a little different too.
Yeah. And well, I just, I didn't say I was going to farm right then. I always knew that's what I wanted to do and come home and at least raise cattle. And then when I did come home, what I got was, oh, it's so nice you're helping your dad. Mm. Yeah, I'm doing a little bit more than that, So, it took a while for them, but now, I didn't go away. So they got to put up with me.
Was there a place for you when you came back? I mean,
Yes,
82,
there was.
83, we're
So I
warming up.
made the, yep. So I made the phone call, 85, and I said, I'm coming home. And my dad said, no, you're not. And my grandpa said, if she wants to come home, she's coming home. So it was all on my grandpa. So we took an old building, made a farrowing house out of it. I bought some gilts, some bread gilts from an Amish guy. You can't make this stuff up, you know. And that's what I came back and I worked for the feed, for the corn to feed those hogs. I worked on the farm. So that's what I tell kids now. Don't come home and expect that farm to work for you. You have to work for the farm. So, you know, there's always ways around it and ways to work out these things. And also, a lot of times there isn't a place. And a lot of young women have come up and said, well, my brother's at home farming. I said, get good at something that farm needs, like marketing. I said, get good at something that farm needs or has to pay for, and then you'll be indispensable to the farm, or they'll need you.
Well, and I found the last few guests here that I've talked to who've gone away to college, come back, and they've said, okay, I analyzed the business and I saw an opportunity here, an opportunity there. So do you consider yourself entrepreneurial or just business-minded? Or are they the same?
A little bit of both. You know, I'm more entrepreneurial in the leadership part, I think, because, you know, I have the farm. Luckily, it's all family farm, so I control it. I'm not out chasing the dirt, but I know I have a unique voice. And so that way, you know, that's why the cows went to the neighbor boy a few years back, and, you know, I sold them to him. And because it's more and more apparent now that our voices need to be heard, and that so many out there in the world have no idea what we're doing, and we're doing the right thing. Whether they call it sustainable or regenerative or whatever name they want to put on it, and they keep changing it when they find out we're already doing it, you know. So we just have to tell our story a lot more.
Is there going to be a next generation? You say cows to the neighbor boy.
So yeah, the neighbor boy, he was helping me a lot, and I was doing a lot more leadership. My daughter, I have one daughter, and she lives in Seattle. That's fun. And she works at the University of Washington, but so she works there, but she gets to take classes for free. And she goes, Mom, I'm taking a soils class. And I go, okay. And she knows every time, you know, I explain it to her, and she knows she's going to have to manage this farm. And so for her to be interested is good. Now, will she come home and farm? Probably not. She makes really good money, and she absolutely loves what she does. And that's what's important. You know, my dad didn't love farming, but that's what he had. And it was apparent. My grandpa lived to farm, you know. And so I always said, you know, do what you love doing, you know, and you're not working. And she loves the area and she loves what she's doing, but she's very interested in managing it. And so that's what she's building, that knowledge now. So I'm very proud of her for being that interested.
Well, enough technology, she can manage it and monitor it and see it. I mean, you can put up a weather station that I can sit there and I know what you got for rain, if it's raining there now, or you can see a lot of things.
I can be in my tractor, and there's a guy that loves to drive my combine in corn, and it's boring, so I let him. And I can, you know, pull up with, you know, on my phone and see what's on the monitor in the cab and what it's doing while I'm waiting for him to load the grain cart. So, you know, that's now. Imagine what's to come, you know. So it's very exciting. Yeah.
So the current farm setup, it sounds like corn, soybeans, livestock's in the past, or livestock's still there?
Livestock's in the past. I still have this pasture, and, you know, we manage it together. We do you know, because you can't, like somebody said, so I used to farrow to finish, and they said, hogs are livestock, cows are a pet. And that's so true. It's so hard to get rid of cows. But I did, so I could do more leadership and travel more. And so, yeah, so it's just corn. So I always say I'm semi-retired. I'm a dirt farmer now. So, but it's all me. I did everything this spring by myself, the field work, the planting, like taking the planter off now. Let's hope I don't have to replant, and putting the sprayer on. So I'm getting ready to spray. So And then the combine, and I do mostly by myself. All my land's within 1.5 miles of my setup, so I'm kind of spoiled.
What's your favorite part of it?
It used to be chopping silage because I love the smell. Yeah, the smell and the time of the year, and you're really getting busy and all that stuff. I love that. But as I get older, it's sharing the farm with other people. It just brings great joy to me, and knowing I'm carrying on, this great tradition, and doing the best I can to save my soil and, just do the right thing for the land, not necessarily for the money, but doing the right thing for the land to pass it on to my daughter and nieces and nephew. So
is that discussion about what's best for the farm? I don't think everybody understands that one, because many, I think, they think it's what's best for the business that happens to be a farm. Why is it so important to have those two things somehow someday come together?
That's a very good point, because those of us who have been on it for generations and want to pass it on, I look at my ground and I have 80% highly erodible ground. So I have to do the right thing. So we always put the alfalfa on the side hill. I'm like, geez, why? Well, yeah, it kept that soil there, and so growing up doing those kind of things really helps. And just because it might be more dollars for the farm doesn't mean it's always the best. I put 4 acres into a wetlands. Why? Because out of 25 years, I got one crop off that piece of ground, and I got stuck more than not. So I put it into a wetlands, and I had neighbors go, "What'd you do that for?" And I told them that, and I said, plus I'm getting paid to do it, So using those programs that are out there and taking my marginal ground and doing, letting that water that comes in there go down, and explaining that to people and what cover crops do. I'm part of my ground. I don't put them on all the ground, but I have filter strips along some creeks. So, just explaining to people what it does, why I do it, why I no-till, things like that. So you're right though. That's building that soil. And I've seen so much improvement on that 200 acres of my farm. I will, keep it up. So,
well, that outreach is important globally, nationally, but your neighborhood might be the most important one that you do.
Exactly. Yeah. And we just had that talk at coffee the other day, and it's like, one guy, I'm not putting any into CRP. You can't. And I said, okay, but if you have some ground that it doesn't make sense, I don't care. I'm going to farm it. So you're never going to change those minds. There's people like that, but there are people who, are thinking about it. And, I get people say, hey, I want to talk to you about those cover crops, or I want to talk to you about no-till and corn into that soybean. I see you're doing that. How's it working? And also, talking with landowners. I just had that opportunity on our Zoom women's marketing meeting, and she wanted her farmer to put the guy who underground everything in the cover crops. And I said, well, it doesn't always make sense, and it costs a lot of money, so you just really need to take a look at it. And that was an extension person talking. That's a farmer talking, this is my experience. This is what I've done. So, there's some landowners think it's the right thing to do, but it might not be. So,
well, and that's a conversation I've had with landowners or farmers, and I've just said, cover crop, yes, no, it just doesn't make sense. I don't know anything about it. Why am I going to pay to do that? And how can I afford to do that? Well, it's the whole sales technique. How can you afford not to? But as you're saying,
it's not the silver bullet. That's what, and people might not like me for saying this, but it isn't. There isn't one size fits all for everyone, because they've done studies, and the filter strips I have along my creeks or streams work just as good as cover crops do. So I said, you'll step back, look at the data, what makes sense, what can work. And I'm up here in the tundra, the Northland, so I have to fly those cover crops on. That's an extra cost, pray for rain so that so it sprouts, so which isn't fun this year.
Well, the rain is always a discussion topic
I
that we
know.
can have. So does your job of marketing farm, do you feel that it's more important to the people in your town then who live around agriculture? Why is it important to market to them, maybe not just your farm neighbors, but those that live in a city of 2,000 to 5,000 people?
And you know what? You know what's amazing is we've had talks about this where somebody goes, I went to my bank to pay off my line of credit or, do something. And the person that worked in there had no idea what I was talking about. And that's a small town bank. So we can't take for granted just because we're out here and we're doing business with them, that people know what we're doing. The best thing I did once was I was sitting in my combine, legs up, combining corn. And I thought, how many people in the world get to do this? How many people get this experience? So I took a 10-second video and I just happened to be combining in cover crops. So I had the cereal rye up about this high, explained it, and that just started a whole discussion, and that was literally all over the world, but it's those small things we can do. But, a lot of them are local people that, I had no idea you did that. I wondered what that green stuff was growing, out there. So it's just fun to get those questions and get people asking questions.
Well, I mean, I'm in a suburb that is full of people who I know are 1 or 2 removed from the farm. They either grew up on it and didn't go back and don't know anything about it.
Right.
And I have to, explain, well, that's this or that's and that's in Iowa. I can't imagine what that conversation is like in Chicago.
Well, and that's why it was so fun to have Naomi Bloom, if I can drop names.
You can name drop.
Come out and ride in my combine. She was headed to do one of your shows and she said, can I stop by? And I go, yeah. So she got to drive the combine and both of her boys. And the boys were just like, and I said, well, I got the gator out. Go ahead. You got 450 acres to drive around in. And, they were amazed at the vastness, the openness. And Naomi, who we listen to and take her advice, and she had never ridden in a combine, I said, well, this is where this is where it comes in, this is how it's done. So just having that go kind of full circle is, I think, needed,
Well, and
just having them help to understand.
Yeah, and that's somebody in agriculture and her kids.
Exactly.
And her boys are about the same age as mine, and mine were just running around in the Ranger at Grandma's last weekend, and they hadn't been able to do that in quite some time. But they'll ask questions. My youngest will say, why do you keep talking about this cover crop thing? And so then I talk a little bit about that, and I'll do the quiz of corn, soybeans. What is that? Well, I don't know. Well, okay, look at the row. Can you, does the row, what color, and try to, then my mom tells the story, and I haven't told this one publicly, I don't think, how when I was a kid, probably their age, 10, 7, riding in a different family's car on a trip. And they were like, Paul talked about crops the entire time. It was corn, soybeans, corn. We had no idea about any of this. And I didn't know I was doing it, but I absorbed it from my father. And, he'd sit there and say, look at that there as we drive
farming.
Around. And you swerve off to the side of the road. I mean, who's not done that, right?
Stop road farming. I'm like, sorry. It's just trying to figure that field out,
Are you one of those that if you drive outside, you're very curious to stop, pull over, and maybe go knock on the door and ask what they're doing?
Oh, yeah. Or look and go. So I've been a soil and water commissioner for over 25 years, and I'll go, oh man, they need a waterway in that field, or that's gullying out. I always go to the conservation side of it. But yeah, it was fun. The really dry year, 2012, I was combining beans and literally watching them pop open as I'm combining, and drives a car, and I'm going, okay. And a guy gets out and was taking pictures, and I go, must need to fill some pages. And it happened to be someone who worked for a farm paper who I knew. And I go, hop in. So, he came in and made a whole story out of it. But I said, you hear that popping? We got out and he goes, yeah. I go, those are those bean pods popping open. He goes, oh my gosh. So, always, it's nice to take the opportunity, and I still have neighbors stop by and we chat about things. So it's fun to do that.
Weather is a challenge always. Trade is another one of those things
Yes.
that has been a challenge. What do you see as important for a new administration to take from the old or run from the old, not just the most recent administration, but those in the past? I mean,
Right.
Our policy has changed. You got the ear of someone who's listening right now. What are you telling them about trade?
Wow. What I always have said, ag does so much better under free trade agreements. I mean, I don't think it's breaking news, alert the press, but it does. And the reason agriculture, especially soybean farmers, got so much attention was when, that trade shut down with China, and they were still our biggest customer when the embargo was on, or when it was an embargo. Boy, I'm going back to Russia days, aren't I? Yeah. So yes, the tariffs were on. So just too big to ignore, but yet we have to work with them. We have to work with everyone. Look at Southeast Asia. So yeah, I wish they would look at TPP again. April Hemmes as a farmer really likes free trade, and from a lot of the experts that I know, that's what they tell me. We need the free trade, and working together with others, really helps. I think, ag has done pretty good through phase 1 with China. Now we get into the harder stuff, so we'll see where it goes from there and what Ambassador Tai does. Is she ambassador? Yeah, trade ambassador. Yeah. And so where that goes from there, but in Europe and everyone, free trade is, and trade, boy, hasn't it changed? We never even used to think about South America, but marketing now is such a challenge because, the safrinha crop in Brazil, that's dry. Yay, like in Iowa, we always went to Illinois to do crappie, so the price goes up, but we have good crops. So, but trade has become such a big issue, and thank God we have the best crops out there, and the world wants them. And they really found that out when China stopped buying a lot of ours, and they had to come to us, and they're like, wow, these are great crops, so that's the bright spot in all of that.
Which country's visitors do you like to have the most?
Oh, that's a good question. I like them all. They all ask such good questions. I had a group of Nigerian women ag leaders on my farm, and so any places that, well, everywhere, but that sees a woman out there doing it, like you do all this, or they're just amazed. And it's the story, they get some, but they've all been great. They really have been. So I like showing the China people what we do. They've come, before harvest and done yield estimates and actually picked the beans off to make edamame. We actually cooked them at the house. It was funny. So, all different types. And actually the one that what amazed me the most wasn't even foreign country. It was the people, Renewable Fuels does a tour for the staff in DC. And we had them out and they toured our farm. Well, they didn't. Well, they toured the farm, but I took them out of corn and soybean field, and I had all these people explaining stuff, and they were just amazed and asking questions. And these are the people who are making our laws and writing our laws, and they had never been in a corn field and never been in a soybean field. They didn't know the difference between, sweet corn and corn. That's what they thought it was. So I invited a lot of the neighbor farmers and stuff, and that's what we talked about afterwards. It's like, oh boy, we needed to see that as much as they needed to see what they saw and talk
those are
about
the people. They're the ones working on your behalf in an ag industry.
I know. So that's why it's so important for agriculture. It's so important for us to get out of our shell, get out of our own little world, and share our story, because we're doing it right, and we need to let the world know that. And we can't forget, like you said, not only the small towns, but, DC, the people who are making our laws.
Well, I just read in the Sunday Washington Post 3 different op-eds about agriculture. Two of them were about the livestock industry and meat and food and things like that. But it's always there's always the such and such narrative is told. We have to. You've had those conversations with those national people. I started this whole thing talking about the buddy seat, and you've had somebody drive your combine who I think is in a fantastic listen in Kai Risdall. That is a man who hosts a show on NPR
I think it's the
stations.
third most listened to show, isn't it? Something like that.
It's called Marketplace, and I love his approach to interviews and topics. And he will engage on certain things. Especially when you have a national media person come. Does your message change?
My combine cab, and you have a captive audience here. He's not going anywhere. First you wow him with technology, but you have to remember why was this attention brought to us right away? China. It was exports. And he loves to talk exports. So now I'm his token farmer. He calls about 3 times a year, and I love talking to him. So and we just talked about prices. He just called last week, I think it was. And we talked. I said, listen, I'm selling corn and beans double the price I was, but I'm not driving a Rolls Royce yet. I'll let you know. So,
you can't buy one. They're on back order.
Well, and then I remembered, heck, tractors cost more than Rolls Royce. So those are the people that we may never have had that voice, agriculture, as in we. And here we are. Here he is. They flew out from California and did a whole video shoot and everything. And we got to talk farming and agriculture and what it's really like out here on the farm. And so that's what's great. And here's what I find. Just be honest with them. Be yourself. Don't try to be more than what you are. I know I'm not a BTO, big time operator, but it's just me out here. But guess what? I farm just on a smaller scale than everyone else. They might have more hired men, but we might have the same combine. So, the interest they have because of the lack of knowledge is what we have to remember. I don't talk farmer talk. I try to put it in their terms, so that's what's fun. And answer, if you get asked to do something, if you don't feel comfortable, no, but obviously I do. So, just engage and say yes and take that opportunity. So
I had to yell at my father one time when he told me, the Waterloo Courier called and they wanted to come out and talk to a farmer. And I said, no. I said, you said no.
What?
You're killing me. That's what I beg people to do.
Dad.
Yeah. I say, I've called farmers and they've told me no. You're that guy that tells me no.
You're that guy.
But he was shy about it. But he didn't have the visitors come. But he would absolutely... I always say he worked hard on the neighbors to work with them. The guy that now farms our land, now since Dad has passed, they had conversations about, well, this is why I do this, and this is why, and it's been hard.
And, right.
That mentor relationship is, we'll go back to that point. The mentor relationship is important, and so is telling your story to the national press. And I think that your audience of that marketplace is a financial audience that, again, I think needs to understand agriculture, because one of our other analysts on the show will say, CNBC's at it again.
So, right. And that's what I said to him. I said, yeah, I'm selling it double, but that doesn't mean it's good. And he goes, well, why not? And I go, because next year my inputs are going to go up. Why? And I go, because they can. But why would they? I said, that is a question for the suppliers, not for the farmer. And he goes, well, okay, but that's how you have to put it, you tell me, because they can. So.
All right. You're in you mentioned your marketing group, the women's marketing group. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So, well, now I didn't even remember how many years ago, 11 years ago now, I went to our farm marketing management guy, Calvin Leibold from Iowa State, and said, listen, marketing is so important now. I want to get together with a group of people. The guys always want to get together in the morning. Well, I was getting kids ready, or actually I wasn't then, but but whenever they want to meet, the women are the ones getting the kids off to school or taking them or doing this. So I said, and Annie's project was just starting on a marketing part of it, and so I said, do you suppose we can get together, some women so we did, and we meet at Iowa Falls, and we have a core group of about 20, but now with Zoom, we're doing Zooming a lot more, and we have guest speakers come in. Naomi's, Zoomed in a couple times. So the chance just to sit down with women, there's no egos there. We don't talk about how much we raise, all that kind of stuff, or the butterfly contracts or whatever you call them, but if we do talk, okay, they're offering this type of a contract, this is how they do it with the options or this or that. And options are hard for anybody to get. So we touch on them, we talk about them a little bit, and we'll have in February, we'll always do crop insurance. And then we always base it around when the reports come out. What happened, why did it happen? So it's just fun to get together, networking. I miss that, and just to and we've really become a family. We've had somebody's had like 4 kids, another person lost a husband, so you just bond together, over that, and it's just great. I've been asked to do a lot of stuff, token women, and I never got it because I always feel very comfortable with, I can be all men and it doesn't bother me, but that's not the case with a lot of women. And they might be the ones, writing the checks for the farmer, doing the marketing, but they don't feel comfortable going to those meetings. And so I never got that before. And so that was eye-opening to me in the early 2000s, when we were looking at that. So, that's kind of how all that evolved. And it's just great fun. And it's great because it keeps me on track and on task, and, makes me watch the markets and tune into Markets Market every night at 8:00, or Friday nights at 8:00. Sorry.
You got it right. You're close.
And
if
Sunday.
You're in Iowa.
Yeah, if you're in Iowa. Sorry. Yeah.
Are you always a TV person, or do you ever pick it up on YouTube or listen to a podcast?
And thank you for having it. Yes, I do both. I do all of them, the podcast and everything. Podcasts are mostly when I'm out in the tractor and planting. I'm catching up on a lot of stuff, and I can Zoom. Zooming meetings when you're planting isn't the best idea, but yeah. So
you can do it if you have to.
Yeah,
it's the technology. It's allowed it to happen.
It has, and we've moved on. I just did I've done a lot of panels on how to connect with consumers now, or what producers want, or things like that. And it's amazing. This is fine, and Zoom is very approachable, but it's a relationship business, agriculture is. I still want to talk to my supplier. I still want to talk to my chemical guy. I'm not going to buy something over an app. I'm going to go talk to them. I'll sell corn. But I'll sell corn or beans. That's handy, but I still want to have that conversation with the people who know my farm. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, legalized bedding in Iowa.
I got you off track, didn't I? Yeah.
What's that?
No.
Okay. A little secret for folks. When people always ask, like, what we're going to talk about, April was no different. What are we going to talk? I said, I'm just going to open up with something and see where it goes. That to me has been the
series, but
Yeah, it's been my that's my fun of this MTOM podcast. Is we just go where we go.
Yeah, that's what I think is great. And
all right, I'm going to leave you with one last question.
Okay.
The rest of this year, what do you need to happen ideally? I mean, of course, everybody needs timely rains and pollination and things like that.
I need the black swans to go away and find wherever they live, because there's not just, like I said a couple times, there's not just one. It's like, seems like there's a whole flock of them out there, So yes, we need the rains. We need the rains to come. That's first and foremost. With this great Iowa soils, we can raise a crop pretty darn good. But I've only had an inch of rain since the 1st of April. And that wasn't all at once. It was, and it's kind of misty, yucky out now, but rains help. And prices, everybody wants the high prices and to, hit the home run like you guys talk about, but just an average good old price, if I just, anything above cost of production is a win for us. So,
right.
Yeah.
All right, April, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again, April Hemmes, for your time. Thank you for listening. Feedback, market-to-market at iowapbs.org. I'm Paul Yeager. Thank you so very much for spending time with us on this broadcast.